Hello, Bucknutters. Welcome to What We Learned Live after Ohio State's closer than what we wanted to see win over Penn State 44-31 in Happy Valley. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by you guys. I'll be joined here in a few moments by Jonah Booker. We'll hear from Jonah in about 15 minutes. And then after post-game interviews, live from Beaver Stadium, we will hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen. Let's break down some of the things that we learned. If you have questions, I will get to them later in the show. You guys want to start with the good or the bad? Let's start with the good, right? I mean, they did pull out. They showed grit, trailing in the fourth quarter, and they showed some grit to win that game. All right, well, we learned that was JT Tuimoloau's coming out party, didn't we? My goodness gracious. And that was even before the pick six to like really put it away. It was really already like put away. So we learned that JTT, I know it's not really JTT, JT, let's just go with JT, even though Ryan Day himself calls him JTT, had his coming out party. And it's great to see that. Unbelievable. That interception that he had early in the game was just that he looked like I don't know, like a corner almost with his agility and his hands. So a lot of fun to see JT Tuimoloau, live up to the hype and then some. It's fun to see these guys come in as, the number one player in the country or whatever, number one player at their position, and not only live up to the hype, but more than live up to the hype. So really cool stuff. Good to see that at a JT Tuimoloau. Fantastic to see it. So we're going to start with, don't worry, I'm going to get to the bad. I know. I'm sure J-Book's going to come here guns a-blazing talking about the bad, and rightfully so. And like we will give Penn State credit too. You gotta give them credit. Some of the other good. How about Cade Stover? My goodness gracious, he just NFL tight end. Does he not look like a future like Travis Kelce to you? I don't think that's hyperbole either. He's just, once he caught that ball at like the 15 or whatever it was, and there was Penn State like DBs there, and it was like, good luck tackling him, and it was just like, boom. Boom, boom. I'm going to bounce off you. I'm going to bounce off you. I'm going to bounce off you. And then touchdown, Cade Stover. 6 receptions for Stover today, 80-some yards, touchdown. Now has 24 receptions on the season. I don't say this lightly because there's been a lot of good tight ends at Ohio State, over the last, just period. And not just over the last like 10 years, but period. Going back to when I was a little kid. Even if when they don't throw it to him, Ohio State has a good history of putting like really good tight ends in the NFL. But at least in the recent history, even with all the third-round picks, like Nick Van Nett and Jeff Hireman and Jeremy Ruckert, fifth-round pick Luke Farrell, I think Cade Stover is the best of that bunch, and I don't think any of those guys would disagree with me. Jake Stoneburner's a guy that played in the NFL. Obviously, before that, we're going back way back now. That not way back, but Jake Ballard. I mean, there's just so many. You can just go on and on about all these tight ends that have played in the NFL. If we want to go way back, Ricky Dudley was a first-round pick. We go way back to my childhood. John Frank's the best tight end ever played at Ohio State. He was a first-round pick by the 49ers. Cade Stover's playing great. All right, we got to get to the bad. All right. The running game's anemic. They were able to get some, that Travion was finally able to crack some late, that big touchdown run in the fourth quarter. So they were finally able to wear them down and crack them a little bit late. But, man, that's 2 weeks in a row now where the running game has been anemic. Not like disappointing where it's like, it's got to be better. Like anemic. I'm sure a lot of you guys, I can't see the comments right now because I'm just doing this solo right now. I'll get your – if you have questions, kind of hold off for now if you don't mind. I don't mind you guys commenting and doing whatever you want. But I'll get your questions later in the show for sure. But running game completely anemic. It was anemic last week against Iowa, 2.2 yards per carry. And let's check the final stats here. How terrible was it tonight? I was just looking at it. I think was it even worse tonight? Yards per carry. No, it was better, 3.8. Okay, because they got those. Okay, because they got the late boost late. They got the late boost late. But still 3.8 yards per carry. And here's the problem that I have. Against Iowa, you could say, well, they were selling out to stop the run and this and that. Like Penn State to me didn't they were using a little bit more 3 linebacker looks than they did against Michigan, but they weren't doing that much different than they did against Michigan. And Michigan could do whatever they wanted against this Penn State defense. Ran for 400 yards, and Ohio State 3.8 yards per carry. That's a concern. Okay. If you guys know me, I love Ryan Day. I want to give that disclaimer for those that don't know me. because that's the worst coach. I can't, and he's lucky, in my opinion. I don't know if lucky is the right word, that they won that game. I thought that was the worst coach game I've seen from Ryan Day, and I love Ryan Day. So that's a high bar. So that's good. You beat Penn State on the road by 13, and I'm saying that's your worst coach game. But it was. I mean, it's like he couldn't decide what he wanted to do. Did he want to be aggressive? Did he want to be super conservative? He was super conservative early. Settled for a 52-yard field goal where I thought he should have gone for the first down on a 4th and 6 play. Ruggles is usually pretty good from close in, not even really close in, but under 50 yards. But like we've been told, like, anything outside of 50 is getting a little sketchy. So you're going to try a 52-yard field goal instead of just going for it on 4th and 6. Then at the end of the first half, I'm like, just take the points. And he decides to get cute and go for it. Now, that was mostly on Stroud. I'm sure Day told him, if it's not there, fire it out of bounds. But then you're leaving the ball in the hands of your young quarterback, even though I know he's a Heisman favorite or one of the favorites. He's fantastic, but still very young quarterback in CJ Stroud. You're still leaving the decision in his hands. And it was bad decision by Stroud. You either got to throw it quickly or do nothing. Like, you can't just take a sack there. But I thought there was 6 seconds left. So just a terribly coached game by Ryan Day, in my opinion, in the first half and a lot of the second half too. Now they finally woke up. It seemed like when they wanted to go over the middle in the passing game, it was there. When they tried these like quick screens to the wide receivers, they got stuffed all the time. I don't understand like why they didn't just go over the middle more. I know you can't do it all the time, but it's like when they tried to go, it didn't matter if it was the field or the boundary. When they tried to go horizontal instead of vertical, it was not working out well for them. They had that huge play at 37-yard pass to Marv on the first drive of the game, and it's like, when are you guys going to continue to do that? Like, did not like what I saw as far as indecision. Are you going to be aggressive or are you going to be conservative? And it was like he kind of was getting in his own head. Coach Day was like, he was very indecisive about, what was his game plan here? You're going to be indecisive. I mean, you're going to be aggressive. Okay. You're going to be conservative. Okay. I mean, pick one or the other. He went back and forth and it bit him every time. It seemed like the anemic run game. They better get that figured out because, we know it's coming on November 26th. I've talked all kinds of mess all offseason. It's going to be a bad day for Michigan. And I still believe it will. But this Ohio State, this is 2 weeks in a row I'm concerned about this running game. All right, we learned that there is a huge – football is a game of momentum. As you guys know, anybody who watched this game, there was a huge momentum shift to begin the second quarter. End of the first quarter, the final play, what happens? Mayan Williams gets hurt, okay? 5-yard run sets up a 3rd and 1. It was really 3rd and less than a half yard, really. I thought they should have measured that. It looked like he got the first down. Point is, and we'll get to Mayan's injury in a minute. It looked like he injured his wrist and he re-injured his knee to me. Okay, so you go into the second quarter if you're Ohio State. You're up 10-0. You got a 3rd and inches. And I think the analytics on ESPN at the time had Ohio State like 93% win percentage or 95, something like that. And, they're sitting there at their own, what was it, the 34 or 29, I guess it would have been, because there was just there was a touchback on a punt, not a kickoff. So they're sitting there at the 29, 3rd and inches. Ohio State's up 10-0. If they get the first down there, that could be curtains right there. First play of the second quarter, right? What happens? They get knocked backwards. Travion Henderson gets knocked backwards, loses yards on 3rd and inches. Why the hell you're not doing a QB sneak there, I have no idea. You talk up Luke Whippler, and rightfully so. Do a QB sneak or do what some of these, creative coaches are doing, which is it's not even creative anymore. Everybody's copying. It's copycat sport. Do a tight end sneak. Put Cade Stover under there. Have Mitch Rossi pushing him from behind or vice versa. What do you want to bet you're going to get 3 inches there? Instead, they get knocked backwards and have to punt. Okay, and then it looks like the defense is going to get it a 3 and out. Ohio State's still up 10-0. What happens? Tanner McAllister and J.K. Johnson whiff on a tackle. This dude goes 57 yards for a touchdown, game on, and you could just feel it. It's like every other game at Happy Valley. Right then, 10-7 Ohio State, you're like, oh boy, here we go. They ended up pulling it out, but you learned it's tough sledding every time the Buckeyes go there. Every time. Okay, we learned that Mayan got hurt. Again, I think it was both. They were trying to debate what it was. Didn't look good. It looked like he re-injured his right knee to me. In fact, I don't even think I'm breaking news there. He was literally like icing his knee on the sideline, they reported. So you're not hearing, I mean, I'm not reporting that. That's what Fox reported. He was literally like icing his right knee, which was the knee that was already banged up. Hopefully it's just a bruise. I don't know it sounds like he's got like a knee bruise to me, which isn't great, but it could be worse. It doesn't sound like he's dealing with like a torn tendon or anything like that But also looked like he hurt his left wrist. We saw he was in like a sling after the game. Not good, because as much as I like TreVeyon Henderson, and I thought Trey played well overall today, and I thought he, has played great as a true freshman, and he's going to have his best year as a Buckeye next year. It's kind of that J.K. Dobbins trajectory that I see out of TreVeyon Henderson. As much as I love TreVeyon, Mayan's been the best running back on the team this year. Just my opinion, but mine's been the best, and that's a high bar for both of them. It's nothing against TreVeyon, so hopefully it's nothing serious with Mayan. They didn't take his helmet away. He went to the locker room. Hopefully he's okay. But man, that was a huge momentum shift to start the second quarter. It goes from 10-0 Ohio State. They're in complete control, 3rd and inches, chance to get that first down and go down and score, and then really put the game away. Instead, all of a sudden it's game on. All right, more good things that we learned. Harrison. Let's talk about more good things. We already talked about JT Tuimoloau, the game of JT's life. Zach Harrison continues to play well. I mean, this was JT's game, and he gets, he's the main man in this one. We already talked about Cade Stover for those that are just tuning in, but Marvin Harrison, my goodness, Marvin Harrison. Joel Klatt keeps saying, like, in 5 years he's going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. Doesn't it look like that? I mean, this guy, what doesn't he have? Too bad he doesn't have the bloodlines, right? It's my little joke. So, Marvin Harrison. I mean, his final stats are just absolutely fantastic for this game. Don't want to get him wrong. 10 catches, 185 yards. The only thing that went wrong, he didn't get a touchdown. We'll take it, though. How about Cade Stover? 6 catches, 78 yards. Emeka, 6 catches, 53 yards. Emeka was held to like nothing until the fourth quarter. CJ Stroud. No one's talking about CJ Stroud. Here's his final stats: 26 of 33, 354 yards with a touchdown and no interceptions. 26 of 33, 354 yards, touchdown, no picks. Another great game from CJ Stroud. Really, it's going to come down to, like, does Hendon Hooker play well against Georgia? And I'm sure there's some other people that are kind of in the race, but it seems like a 2-man race, basically. We'll see what happens, but I'm liking Stroud's chances. a lot. We're going to hear from J-Book very, very, very shortly here in the show. Georgia up 7-0 over Florida. Got a little Michigan State at Michigan tonight. This Michigan State team is not good, as we all know from watching them play against the Buckeyes recently. Let's get into some other stuff that we learned here. I mean, what a huge first down late there. 3rd and 10 to Marvin Harrison. Goodness gracious. Here's another thing. Okay, I am glad that they won. Obviously, I'm glad they won, but I don't think this is nitpicking. So Ohio State goes ahead with the TreVeyon Henderson 41-yard touchdown run. They go ahead. What'd they go ahead? 22-21. They went ahead by 1 point, and they were going to go for 2, and they get the penalty, and they end up just kicking it and going up 23-21. Why not go for it anyway? Basically, 4th and goal from the 7. Why not just go for it there anyway? I didn't understand kicking the extra point there. So Tommy Eichenberg whiffed on the go-ahead touchdown for Penn State to make it 21-16 in the fourth quarter. I've been the biggest Tommy Eichenberg stan that you guys have seen. We got to say what we saw today. We saw some bad tackling. Jim Knowles, people are going to say, oh, maybe Jim Knowles isn't all that. I think his scheme was on point today. I saw some bad tackling. The big play that we talked about earlier, the big 58-yard touchdown by Penn State to get them back in the game. Two guys are right there. And it was kind of luck because, one of them kind of spun the guy around, but Tanner McAllister and J.K. Johnson are right there. They've got to make that stop. Instead, they spin the guy around, and he stays on his feet and goes for a 58-yard touchdown. And Tommy Eichenberg, big missed tackle there on fourth down. That would have stuffed Penn State. Now, ended up not mattering. Ohio State won this game comfortably. It's funny looking at the final score, 44-31. We're all sitting there in the fourth quarter like, oh, crap, are they even going to win this game? And then late, it's 44-24. It's like all of a sudden they're up by 20. But give Penn State credit. They always come ready to play. This was a 15.5 point spread. And Penn State did very well. Let's hear from let's see if Jay Book is going to hop on pretty soon. Let's see what's up with Jay Book real quick. Give me just a sec, my friends. There he is. I knew he'd come on soon. There he is. What's going on, my friend? Jay Book is welcome to the show, Jonah Booker.
How's it going, Dave? Still trying to calm my nerves down after that one.
How could you not? Okay, before I ask you questions, your general thoughts. What do you want to get out there?
I would say just fortunate enough to come out of there with a win. I know a lot of people are going to compare the way Michigan looked against Penn State to what Ohio State looked like, but at the end of the day, you won. You're still undefeated. Once the rankings come out on Tuesday, you're going to be, probably the number 2, number 3 team. There's a lot of things, that went really bad for the offense, especially Ryan's Day play calling and some of his decision making. You had some bright spots in your stars. Defense, they were more bend but don't break this week. But as bad as they played, Dave, once again, you have an Ohio State team that put up 40 points.
Yeah. Where do we start, though? How big of a concern is this running game, in your opinion? This is 2 weeks in a row. It's been and this is a Penn State defense that Michigan could do whatever they wanted to do on the ground, 400 yards and counting.
Yeah, it's very concerning. 2 weeks in a row, you go against quality defensive fronts and they're not able to run the football. Matthew Jones is struggling 2 weeks in a row. I'm not sure what's going on with him. Travion Henderson, he's dancing too much. It feels like he doesn't trust his offensive linemen to set up the blocks for him. So I'm really concerned, Dave, especially with Mayan being hurt. We're just not seeing that effective run game. And to be fair, some of those run calls are just absolutely absurd. I had tweeted out a picture. There's 8 in the box and Ryan Day's running a toss sweep to Henderson to the boundary side of the field. Like, come on, man, it's a numbers game. You're already out leveraged. They have 8 in the box. They're asking you to run the ball. That's just wasted plays, blown plays that puts the offense in a much more difficult situation to where instead of being, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, or 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, you're now 3rd and 10 because of a blown play, calling a toss sweep to the boundary. So to me, I think there's a lot to be desired when it comes to the play calling as far as the rushing attack. But right now, it's a major concern, Dave, especially as you get ready to head into Michigan.
JT Tuimoloau. Wow. I love when it's like, it reminds me, okay, this might not be a perfect analogy, but when I think of high expectations and people exceeding them, it was literally LeBron James' first game in the NBA. And I was thinking, oh man, I hope, I'm not even a Cavs fan, but I remember thinking, oh man, I hope he lives up to all this hype. And you could tell right away that he exceeded it. It was like, oh, okay, this is on. JTT, and I know it's not JTT. JT, maybe last year he didn't exceed it, but he got here August or something, late July. It was crazy. My goodness gracious, he had his coming out party today. It's so much fun to watch. Your thoughts on Mr. Tuimoloau? Wow.
8 tackles, 3 TFLs, 2 sacks, 2 INTs, 1 pick six, 1 pass breakup, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and a partridge in a pear tree, man. Greatest Dave. You've watched Ohio State and covered the beat for many years. Is this the greatest defensive performance by a performer here at Ohio State? this exceeds what I saw from Chase Young. Chase Young did some outstanding things when he played against Wisconsin in Penn State games and both against the Penn State. But this right here, this was absolutely domination. I mean, that was freakishly athletic, that pick six.
It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So what was up with them not attacking the middle more? It seemed like anytime Ohio State wanted to attack the middle with Cade Stover and Marvin Harrison or fill in the blank, it was there. When they tried to, do these wide receiver screens, it was just stuffed every time. Like what was Ryan Day is such a good play caller. What happened?
Ryan Day has shown in multiple big games, Dave, that sometimes it takes him a while to really get started. Like some of the stuff I had to just walk away from the TV. I was so frustrated watching the bubble screen after the bubble screen. Like, you're Brian Hartline. You are going to go recruit the highest level of wide receivers in the country. You don't run bubble screens with those guys. They're way too good. Penn State had no answer for when Ohio State wanted to stretch the field north and south and get aggressive, go vertically. Ryan Day was just calling just an odd game, Dave, and I don't understand what he was trying to do. They just need to throw the bubble screens out of there. These wide receivers are way too talented to be out there running a Mickey Mouse type of scheme when you're calling 10 bubble screens for 10 yards in the entire game. But yeah, the middle of the field was wide open, Dave. If Penn State weren't stacking the box, they were all out on the blitz, and those quick slants and stretching the field in the middle was wide open all day, every day. If I was Ryan Day, I'd have just tempoed them boys out of there. You want to stack the box? Go ahead. We're just going to sit there and pick you apart and break you off with 15, 18, 20-yard chunk pass plays down the middle of the field.
How worried are we about Chop? I mean, it looked like he injured his wrist and re-injured his knee to me.
Who knows? I mean, it looks like he had a sling there. I am worried about him. I truly believe that Mayan Williams should be running back one here, with Henderson being the running back that spells him as a change of pace back. I just think that Mayan brings a level of toughness decision-making as a running back. You don't see Mayan back there dancing, Dave. There's way too much dancing that I'm seeing out of Henderson with the happy feet. When Mayan sees it, he hits it like a freight train, and he's always falling forward for at least another 2, 3, 4 yards. That's what you need. If you're going to run the power run game, your running back has to be able to operate in the power run scheme. So hopefully we get him back, Dave, because I truly believe that he needs to be the bell cow back. Tony Alford probably disagrees with me, and Henderson's going to get the bulk of the carries, because at any given moment, like you saw today, Henderson does have the capability to break one. But in my opinion, watching the two running backs this year, I think Mayan is playing way better than Henderson overall.
So I've got the ticker down there. So game ball is obviously Tuimoloau. I mean, he gets, if only one person got it, it would be him. MVP of the game, JT Tuimoloau. Cade Stover. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. there, CJ Stroud, Zach Harrison. Do you agree with those? Am I leaving anybody out? Maybe Tyleik Williams had a couple of really nice back-to-back plays there.
Yeah, I think Tyleik played really well. I would include him in there. Stover, I thought Stover did a poor job blocking on the screen passes, but if you get him as an inline blocker on the line, he's devastating. I just don't think Stover's feet are good enough to be blocking in the bubble screen game, because he whiffed quite a bit there. Him and Julian whiffed on a lot of those bubble screen blocking. But yeah, I thought those guys played really well there. I think the defensive line is really starting to come on, Dave. They got a lot of heat from people across the country because they weren't racking up the sacks, but man, they are really starting to play some ball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We have somebody on Jason on Facebook. Where was Mike Hall? He was out there. He still isn't playing like he started the game. I mean, Mike Hall was out there.
Yeah, Mike was out there. I saw a couple plays where Mike was there. But the good news is a guy like Tyleik Williams steps up and plays huge in crunch time. So that tells you the depth that they have there, that Mike Hall, when healthy, he's one of the most dominant defensive tackles, but because he's, somewhat on the pitch count there, you got a uber talented guy in Tyleik Williams stepping up. And I thought Cage played really well today. And once again, you got Zach Harrison stacking back-to-back really good games. So I think Zach Harrison is having an awesome season. But yeah, if we can get if we can get this defensive line playing like this against Michigan, Dave, with Tommy the way he's playing, I think the defense is going to be just fine. My main concern coming out of today is the offense. One, the play calling from Ryan Day has to be better. He left a lot to be desired out there. I think the offense makes it way too hard for themselves. There's too many wasted plays with the bubble screens, toss sweeps to the boundary, just a lot of dumb stuff that they do on offense. But if they can't run the football, Dave, you can't win a national championship. No way you get through Georgia. No way you get through Alabama not being able to run the football.
A question here from Rick on YouTube. What do we think about Penn State's defensive backs? Year in and year out, they love to grab and hold on downfield passes. Refs don't always call it. I mean, Ohio State's DBs do that a little bit too. We saw that with Denzel Burke got away with one. What do you think about that, Jay Book, being
I mean, it's just part of the game. They always – Penn State defensive backs are always been handsy, but if the refs aren't going to call it, then why not just keep doing it? I just think that Ohio State – when Penn State was trying to guard those guys one-on-one, they had no answer for Marvin. And I don't think Emeka Egbuka game is running bubble screens, Dave. I think that kind of threw his game off early on. If they can get Emeka out there running a full route tree, that's when he's more effective. I just don't think Penn State defensive backs had any type of answer for those guys. And I know a lot of people are going to point to CJ's clock management, but overall, I thought CJ threw the ball extremely well today.
Hey, what do you think about this? I mentioned this earlier. Like, I feel like we got to give Penn State credit. We have a voice in the choir on YouTube saying that you got to give Penn State credit. I mean, where do you come down on that? We're being critical of Ohio State. And I think you're on point with everything you're saying. It's a lot of what I wrote in my own notes. But like, how much credit do we give Penn State here?
You give them a ton of credit. They played hard. I mean, it's a darn good program. They haven't taken the next step to ascend to elite status, but that's a prideful program over there. They were going to fight Ohio State tooth and nail. At one moment, Dave, when Ohio State got up 10-0, I thought Ohio State had the opportunity to really put the foot on the throat and make it turn into a snowball effect. They weren't able to run the ball on 3rd and 1 when they had the momentum Ohio State where they could have really put the pressure on Penn State. But credit to Penn State, they got to stop, got the ball back, and came down and scored right away, made it a game. Once that crowd starts getting into it, Dave, then that Penn State team, they're going to fight like heck to try to pull that victory out of defeat.
All right, I'll get you out of here on this. Like, so where are you at after this win? Is it just like, listen, this is how it goes at Penn State? They won by 13. Survive and advance. Are you concerned? Think about the Michigan game coming up here in less than a month. Where are you at right now, Jay Book?
I would say, what's the Jim Tressel saying? Once you head into November, you should be playing your best football. I don't think Ohio State's playing their best football right now when you can't run the football. So I am extremely concerned about that. The play calling, when Dave's on, he will put any defensive coordinator in a blender when he's on his game when it comes to play calling. When he is off, he is extremely off his game until he really finds that rhythm. CJ, I think he needs to be better at the clock management aspect. But once again, I thought he threw the football extremely well. We saw that the bubble screen game doesn't work, Dave. Throw that out the window. Right now, I still think this defense can play better. They did give up some points. They have more of a bend but don't break. But the good news is I have the utmost trust in the defense right now. I feel like if the offense is off, the defense will be able to carry the load. One thing I'm really encouraged about when it comes to the defense is the turnovers that they're creating, Dave. 2 weeks in a row, they're creating multiple turnovers, pick sixes. So you love to see that. I thought the corners played decent. They didn't play great. They got to get Cam Brown back. Hopefully Jordan Hancock can continue to progress. But I just want to see, this defense continue to get better. But overall, the run game is my biggest concern, but you won the football game. Hopefully once they get to Michigan, they'll be able to figure it out.
You got time for one more?
Yep.
Rick on YouTube, J-Book, I didn't get to see Dominic Raiola's game last night. How did he do in your neck of the woods? Dylan Ray. I call I'm showing my age. Dominic's not playing anymore. Dominic's been retired. That's his dad. How did Dylan do last night?
He did okay. I mean, it wasn't like a performance to make you just really jump off your couch and say, "My goodness." Bash the team that they were playing. They were 6-1. They got probably 4 or 5 players on that team that are going to go to D1. So he wasn't playing against any scrubs. I wouldn't say it was just a blow your mind type of performance, but it wasn't bad. It was just a typical high school football game that you can see the intangibles, you can see the tools that he has, but at the same time, you're playing. It's high school football. It's not going to be just a overwhelming dominant performance when you're a quarterback and you're relying on high school kids to make plays for you.
Well, hey, my man, thank you for jumping on here. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate you jumping on here after the game. Get back to watching college football. Buckeyes survive and advance. The best thing about being 8-0, chance to go 9-0. There we go. Thank you, Jonah Booker. He is J-Book. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Jonah. Great hearing from Jonah Booker. We will still hear from – I'm not still here. We will hear from Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen live from Beaver Stadium after post-game interviews. So looking forward to that. Great hear from J-Book. He always comes strong on the Friday Bucknuts Morning 5. And great having him jump on What We Learned Live here, our post-game podcast. And great to have all of you in here. We have like a lot of viewers on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So thank you to all of you who are tuning in right now. All right, let's hit some questions up. Man, I tell you what. Wasn't looking good there early in the fourth. I mean, I didn't think it was obviously. I mean, it was a one-score game. All you needed to go down with score, and they did. But man, seems like it's always like that over there, right? All right, Brad on YouTube. What's everyone's thoughts on CJ's performance today? I don't want to speak for everyone, but I thought CJ played well today. I love that he stepped up and ran the ball several times. Several, I mean like 4, but still, I mean, he showed some dog today, and his passes, that's a tough environment, tough defense. CJ Stroud's performance, the numbers look good, and I think it's kind of underrated, how well he played. No one's really even, I mean, maybe people are talking about it. I don't know. It didn't seem like there was that much buzz, even the little bit, even late in the game, they weren't talking about it much. CJ Stroud, 26 of 33, 354 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 26 of 33, 354, a touch, no interceptions, and stepped up and ran the ball. Now, his running stats, because the stupid thing that they do in college where they count sacks against your rushing yards, 6 carries for 5 yards doesn't do it justice. He had an 11-yard run. He had some other runs where he stepped up, and I just loved seeing that out of CJ. So good for him. So to answer your question, Brad, I thought CJ played really well. Kudos to CJ Stroud. He's definitely one of my game ball winners. Loud Ace on YouTube. Are you guys concerned about the middle of the D line? PSU ran between the tackles quite well on first down. At times I am. As soon as I was getting ready to worry about the running game, then Ohio State would stuff them. It's like Knowles mixes things up so well. He it's not it's not a huge concern. I'll put it that way. Maybe it's a mild concern because I just think overall I love what I'm seeing out of this defense. That play, that long touchdown where J.K. Johnson and McAllister were right there to get the stop, and that guy squirts out of there, kind of got twisted around. I love what I'm seeing out of that Knowles defense. It seems like even when they get a play, not every play, but even when teams get a big play, it's almost kind of luckish, where it certainly wasn't scheme related. Where last year all the time, the previous year it was just how's this guy 50 yards open? So mildly concerned, but not too concerned to answer your question. All right, we have Jabari here on YouTube. It is time to extend Jim Knowles through retirement. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like he is happy here. I feel like this is what he wants to do. I don't feel like he wants to be a head coach again. It's not a sure thing. I just feel like he's happy here as long as I feel like he enjoys working with Ryan Day and having full autonomy of the defense, making $2 million a year. That's also pretty good. And he's been a head coach before. I think Gene Smith and Ryan Day will do what it takes to make sure Jim Knowles is happy. And I asked Ryan Day about that. I do think that Jim Knowles is content, and Ryan Day concurred with that. David on YouTube. The corners are still the concern. Yeah, I mean, I think Denzel Burke's playing better. I mean, J.K. Johnson had some good plays, and overall didn't play that well. Not having Cam Brown healthy is a concern. Not good, not good overall. Let's get to some more questions here. I'm just now catching up. Yeah, Brad on YouTube. Jim Knowles definitely made a difference today. He sure did. He sure did. Hank, remembering my preseason prediction, we had to make a bold prediction. Yeah, he might finish with 10. No, I don't think he will. I think he'll be able to come back. Hank on YouTube saying, "Hey, Bids, your man got his double-digit touchdown, nailed it." Yeah, we had to make a bold prediction. Mine was that mine would get double-digit touchdowns. He got his 10th today. Hopefully not his last. Goodness gracious. Injuries seem to be mounting up for our boys here. RK saying 4 touchdowns in 6 minutes. I know that they are an avalanche when they want to be. It's fun to see. 4 touchdowns in 6 minutes, including a defensive touchdown. So much fun. Yeah, I like Hancock too, Brad. Brad on Facebook. I like Hancock as well. Mike on YouTube. He says it looks like Williams broke his wrist. That's what it looked like I saw too. Looked like he was like one of those, man, he got hurt twice on that play. Looked like he probably broke his wrist or at least definitely hurt it. He was in a sling afterwards. Didn't look like it was hanging right. He was kind of holding that, and they were icing his knee, which was previously injured. Not good. Jason on YouTube. Zach Harrison, you all don't overlook that great performance. Yeah, again, we talked about that earlier. He definitely gets a game ball. He definitely gets a game ball. We had some people asking about this. Jason on Facebook, did Mike Hall Jr. not play? No, he was in there. They rotated him in there. They rotated him in there a decent amount. Chris on Facebook, where was Sawyer? Again, he was in there. I mean, he didn't make any splash plays. I mean, JT Tumolo and Zach Harrison are the starting defensive ends. Those guys get the majority of snaps, especially in a game like this. They don't always get the majority of snaps in games because sometimes games are decided. But in games like this where it's not decided, those are the defensive ends that are going to get the majority of snaps. JT Tumolo, who's fantastic today, and Zach Harrison, who's fantastic today. And then Jack Sawyer's the next man up. Javante Jean-Baptiste is the next man up after that. And then I'd say Caden Curry after that. I agree with this. I want to get to this from Glenn Terry. Not to be confused with Terry Glenn. Glenn Terry on Facebook cannot become one-dimensional. I agree so much with that. And this was we've been touting their balance, and they had been until the last 2 weeks. Now it's like they have to pass the ball to do anything. Very, very, very disappointing. Very disappointing, especially against a rushing defense that Michigan could do whatever they wanted to. And I've seen people say this. Well, that game was in Ann Arbor. Oh, okay. So that's why they're able to run for 400 yards and counting because it was in Ann Arbor. I mean, obviously that helps. Trust me. I know. I said all week, don't get it twisted. Just because this is not a whiteout, this is going to be a tough environment. You guys know I've been saying it all week. This will be a tough environment. This will be a tough environment. I know that helps. But this is still a Penn State defense that gave up 400 yards and counting to Michigan on the ground. They could do whatever they wanted, and they stuffed Ohio State today for the most part. Now, Ohio State finally got them a couple times there late, which was great to see. Travion with the go-ahead touchdown run. That was awesome. So we'll see what happens. And we're going to hear from Steve Helwagen and Patrick Murphy after post-game interviews. What is the latest with Jackson? Tell me which Jackson you're talking about. You talking about Donovan Jackson? Oh, you probably mean Jackson. I got you. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You just spelled it wrong. I got you. I'm guessing that's who you mean. What's the latest with Jackson? Am I going to get in trouble again for saying this? This is just my opinion. I'm not breaking news here. This is just my opinion. I think we've seen the last of him in a Buckeye uniform. And if we do see him again, it'll be like against Michigan at the earliest, and hopefully in the college football playoff or the national championship game. Waddle style for Alabama. They brought Waddle back for that national championship game, maybe something like that. But I'm not hearing good things. I'm not going to go any more detail than that. I'm not hearing good things. Assuming that's the Jackson you're talking about, Jackson, not Jackson, then I think we've seen the last of him playing for the Buckeyes, and I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, hope I'm wrong. Yeah, we have someone saying that RK on YouTube heard JSN is seeking an opinion with a doctor in Florida. Yeah, Dr. James Andrews is the rumor there. The very famous sports doctor. So, I mean, I give JSN credit. He tried to come back twice. So we are joined live by Steve Helwagen from Beaver Stadium. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on?
Well, your overall
Can
thoughts.
you hear
I mean, yeah, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So your
What a crazy
overall
game,
thoughts.
Dave.
This was sketchy. They were losing in the fourth quarter
With 9 minutes to go.
Never easy over there. And then they score 4 touchdowns in 6 minutes. Your thoughts overall in this game? Is this a good win for Ohio State? You happy, or is this signs that there could be trouble in the future?
Oh, it's a hell of a win. I think you have to go with that. Clearly, this is the best team Ohio State's played on both sides of the ball. There were a lot of issues that were exposed here today, particularly Ohio State's inability to run the football. And obviously, there were enough mistakes on both sides of the ball for Ohio State to film study. Will take them all week probably before they play Northwestern next week. You'd love to learn those lessons and come to those realizations in a game that you win. And they gutted this one out. This was a back and forth game. If you weren't here, in case no one I win a game, whether they have a great team or not. And they seem to have a pretty good team this year, and a team that was capable of taking advantage of some of Ohio State's few weaknesses. I mean, Clifford threw for, I think, 360 yards again against them, second year in a row. And yet he also threw 3 picks. So it was that kind of day, as Coach Day said, that you knew you were going to give up a few points, but the flip side was they played tremendous football, particularly in the fourth quarter, getting stops, getting turnovers, and putting the ball in the end zone. And ultimately, that's what it came down to. Ohio State did more of that than Penn State did, and Ohio State gets out of here. There's areas they improve on, but not sure internet issues here or not. It's showing me that Dave might be buffering a little bit right now, so I'm not sure. Oh, there's Pat.
Yeah, Steve. Yeah, welcome Pat Murphy to the show. Steve, we have a question for you. Patrick, welcome to the show, my friend. Patrick Murphy, live from Beaver Stadium. Steve, Mike Schaefer says he loves your takes. What are your thoughts on the play calling the first 3 quarters?
Yeah, there was a lot of head scratching going on. 2nd and 10, they're running the ball with Henderson a couple times for no gain. Threw a bunch of screens that never seemed to gain any kind of traction. They weren't blocked particularly well. A lot of questions. I mean, when you hit a deep ball on the 3rd or 4th play of the game, why aren't you continuing to try that? And they didn't go back to that till later in the half. And that seemed kind of weird to me that Penn State, was susceptible to that, and they didn't go after him that way like that. So to me, there's a lot of questions. I think the offensive line, I think Matthew Jones couple plays in the first half was a no-show, and they squirted by him and made negative plays a couple times, and they're going to play better teams down the line, and they're trailing in this game with 9 minutes left, but you got the best player in college football, C.J. Stroud. You went down, you scored, and then you get the great play by J.T. Tuimoloau, and what can you say?
Patrick, what are your overall thoughts on this game? I mean, wasn't looking good there in the fourth quarter. Buckeyes were able to turn it on. They looked good early. They looked good late. In between that, they didn't look good. Patrick?
Yeah. Can you hear me good?
Yep.
All right. First of all, Penn State ice cream. It's the only reason I come to these games. It's delicious. But no, to answer your question, Dave, it was what I kind of expected. It wasn't how I expected it, but I said yesterday that this wasn't going to be a comfortable game for Ohio State. Coming to this stadium never is. And we knew that this was the biggest challenge of the year for Ohio State. And that doesn't mean that you get a result like you did last week against Iowa. You come with some questions. You were going to get challenged here. And I think that you have to figure out a way to win that. And Ryan Day said after the game, look, they have plenty to go back to the film on, and they have a lot of things that they need to fix. And obviously they know what's potentially coming down the pipeline, but you got to enjoy this win. I mean, came to Penn State, a 15 team, and you got to here with a win. And yeah, you had to do it in a different way. You weren't able to get the offense going. The defense had to step up, and even the defense at times didn't make the plays that they have. Some of those big plays that Penn State had. But I think that the key there is that you found a way to get a win. You're sitting on the other side of this, you're feeling real bad about things. And so I know there's a lot that we could touch on, but I just wanted to stress the importance of getting out of here with the win. They're not going to play in another stadium like this the rest of the year. If they go to the Big Ten Championship, the college football playoff, they'll play teams that may be better than Penn State. But playing in this stadium it's nuts. If you've never been here, I can't explain how loud this place gets. And, it was a day game, but it still was rocking in here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We talk about that all week. It's like, don't get it twisted. It's not going to be as raucous as it would be for a whiteout, but it'll still be raucous. Steve, tell me if you agree with this. So I have some game balls, some proverbial game balls that I gave out. So do you agree with this? So I have, obviously this was the game of JT Tuimoloau's life. JT Tuimoloau just played unbelievably great. We'll remember this is his coming out party. Cade Stover, how about him? Marvin Harrison Jr., C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud was even scrambling at times. I love that. Zach Harrison. Just talk about some of the guys who really stood out today. I think you're on mute, Steve.
I think Ronnie Hickman had a pretty good game. He had a couple back-to-back pass breakups at a really important time there early on. So many guys. Tyleik Williams had that big play on third down, or maybe fourth down, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there were curious calls by the coaches on both sides at times in this game. It was kind of like James Franklin was saying, I see your silly decision and I raise you one even worse at times, with him not kicking that field goal and going for it on fourth down and so on and so forth. But, so many guys contributed to this win. This is definitely a team win. I think Doug Maurice from the Cleveland.com asked Coach Day about the touchdown from Travion Henderson, and it appeared that Cade Stover blocked two guys on the play, and DeJuan Jones also helped on that, coming from the right side over to the left side, I guess, and blocking a linebacker down the way. So there were a lot of people involved in the success of that play, and again, it's a team effort. JT Tuimoloau tips the interception, and Zach Harrison catches it. And, they didn't fully capitalize on a lot of those mistakes. But, again, so many people involved in the success here today for Ohio State. It's hard to narrow it down to just 5 or 6 guys. It was a total team effort.
All right, Steve. Thank you for your insight, sir.
All right, guys. Be good.
Steve. All right. Thanks for hopping on, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll get Steve on out of here, and then we'll just chat with Patrick for a little bit. All right, Patrick, hard-hitting question from Steven on Facebook. What kind of ice cream is it?
Yeah, it's this Penn State ice cream, Penn State Creamery. They have it here in the press box. It's delicious. I eat way too much of it when I come to these games. So I'm going to continue to indulge.
Good for you. Good for you. What are you hearing about Mayan? It didn't look good. Looked like he as Rusty on YouTube is saying, looked like he broke his wrist, and it looked like he re-injured his knee too. They were saying he was getting his right knee iced. Not good. Not good.
No, certainly not. I joke with you about the 10 touchdowns, which he did reach today, your bold prediction from the start of the year, but he's been big for them. And I don't know what Travion Henderson needs to get going. I'm hoping maybe that big play today gets him going, but you need to be a north and south runner at times, and Mayan just is that. And so if he's going to miss time, it could be tough for a team that's already struggling to run the ball when they've played good defenses these last 2 weeks. I'd be interested to see if Dallin Hayden maybe gets a little bit more run, as I think it was Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row pointed out when we're sitting in the press box. Every time Ryan Day gets asked about Dallin Hayden, he talks positively, but then he mentions young running backs needing to learn how to, or make sure they hold on to the ball. So I wonder if that's been an issue for Dallin, and maybe why we didn't see him in a big game like this one. You can't risk a turnover because you have a freshman in a game that you don't completely trust. But I do think he can do some good things if Mayan has to miss some time. I know that the injuries seem to be piling up, and I don't think the numbers are actually worse than they've been in the past. I just think you've had guys that could be huge difference makers on this team miss some time, and Jackson Smith and Jigba being the biggest one, but other guys as well. And so if Mayan's added to that list, that's a bit of a blow. But Brian Day said, he made it clear. Honestly, I don't know. He's like, I will get you guys that information. So we'll see when. I assume we'll hear more Tuesday if Ryan decides to be forthcoming. But as you said, Dave, it didn't look great. Hopefully it's, something that maybe he has to miss a game or two, but isn't a long-term thing.
I have mixed emotions here when I analyze this game. I'm looking forward to rewatching it. The biggest thing is any win at Penn State is a good win. Especially a Penn State team that's ranked 13th, and that seems about right. They seem to be about a top 15 team to me, not a top 10 team. Any win at Penn State's a good win. I know this rivalry well, and any win over there is good. But, my gosh, again, the anemic run game for most of the game for the second straight week. Ryan Day, I don't know what he was doing for a lot of the game. Injuries mounting up. I don't know what to think here. The biggest thing is, obviously, I know what to think. Ohio State won this game, and they won by 13 points. They were leading by 20 late, even though they were trailing in the fourth quarter. So that's the biggest thing. When I say I have mixed emotions, though, a lot of us have been saying things like national championship or bust. You look at this team right now, and they're going to be right in the mix, and I still love their chances. But I got to be honest, I just feel like I walk away from this game with maybe more questions than I expected coming into it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think a lot of times when you play these big games, sometimes that's the case. I think my thought coming in was if Ohio State came in here and looked good and won, and I didn't expect it to be any sort of blowout, that they had the best case to be the number one team in the college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night, the first ones. Now I'm not so sure that they will be, or that they should be. I think that, they're certainly top 2, top 3, but depending on what other teams do today, and I haven't seen much around the country, so I'm not sure what else has happened. But, you're in that mix, but you had a chance against a top 15 team to really cement yourself, and I don't think they did that. You mentioned the Ryan Day play calling, and I know Twitter was blowing up with talk about the screen passes, and obviously that was not working. Ryan Day did say after the game that, he considers that a part of the run game, and that Penn State takes away a lot of things. So what they wanted to do was stretch Penn State to one side, make the defense shift, be able to do it to the other side, and then they could be able to hit them downfield. Penn State just made plays, and I don't think Ohio State executed it very well. And the biggest issue is it took Ryan Day too long to get away from it. And I think that's something he has to evaluate himself on, because we've seen that in the past, is sometimes he'll try and stick with things, and it's like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. He told us this past week, they don't script plays, but they have plays that they like for this defense and whatnot. I think you need to be able to adjust a little bit quicker when a defense is clearly keying on things that you're doing.
Couple more things we'll get you out of here. Defense. How about this Ohio State defense? Number 2 in the country. And I know they gave up some big plays today, but it wasn't due to scheme most of the time. Tanner McAllister and J.K. Johnson were right there on Penn State's long touchdown, 58-yard touchdown that should have been stopped for like 5 yards or something like that. What are your thoughts on this Buckeye defense and how they performed today?
Good, very good. Yeah, the numbers don't reflect a dominant performance, but I think some of that's credit to Penn State. And yeah, you've got to clean up the missed tackles. There's been too many of those, I think, and we haven't talked about it because we haven't needed to. But you saw what a team can do today out on that field when you do miss tackles. An explosive team like Penn State and other teams they're going to play, that certainly has to be fixed quickly. But look, I mean, the turnovers, they're coming fast now. I mean, remember early in the season when we were, where are the turnovers? This defense is playing great, but they're not turning the ball over. Now they're turning the ball over frequently. The defensive line is starting to play, dirty. I mean that in a positive way. They're dogs out there. Obviously, JT Tuimoloau, it was the star of the show, but Zach Harrison last week, this week, you saw a handful of other guys get in there and make some plays. So, I think little plays here and there could have changed this game and made it look a lot better defensively. Tommy Eichenberg missing the tackle on the fourth down play, stuff like that. It just changes the course of the game, the way you look at the game. But I still think they're playing well. Look, this team a year ago, this team 2 years ago doesn't get out of this game with a win with the offensive struggles that they had. The defense made the difference today.
We have Michael on YouTube saying, I can never remember a team's defensive ends having a combined 3 picks. That's a good point.
Zach Harrison was asked if he had a performance like that. He goes, no, he's a defensive end and he had a pick 6. I've never seen something like that. Ryan Day said he doesn't remember ever seeing a play like that. There's definitely been plays like that, but I think it goes to show just what JT Tuimoloau did today, that those two guys are exclaiming about him so much.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, even on Zach Harrison's pick, it was off of JT Tuimoloau's helmet, and Zach Harrison very athletically tips it to himself, and then looked like a tight end there. All right, let's get you out of here on this. Your parting thoughts. I kind of asked you this earlier, what does this mean for Ohio State going forward? How do you feel about, if you're an Ohio State fan, how should you feel right now? 8 games into the season, you're 8-0. You're probably going to skate through the next 3 weeks, and then the game will happen on November 26th. If you're an Ohio State fan, Patrick, how you feeling right now?
I think you should still feel pretty good. I think this is a team that can get things fixed. We've seen that throughout the year. I think if you look at all of the other teams that are in the mix, that top 5, 6 spots in the rankings, they've all had these type of games where things haven't gone right and they've had to win it late against teams that aren't number 13 in the country. Remember Georgia, Missouri a month or so ago. Tennessee struggled with Pitt, and Alabama lost a game. Clemson's been in a few of those games this year. Michigan to Maryland. So if you're going to have a game where there's going to be a bunch of questions about it, I would rather it be against a top 15 team and you still get out with the win. I think that you continue to see areas where the team has to grow. I think as good as CJ Stroud has been at times, there's still areas for improvement. I wrote about that this past week, and he had a couple throws today that if the defense just makes a play, that it could have been an interception or something along the lines. I think Ryan Day and this staff in general has to continue to get, especially on the offensive side. They need to figure out what they can do really well when it's not just CJ having all the time in the world to throw, because that's going to be the difference this season is how this offense complemented by the defense can make plays when it's not perfect. And that's the thing. And you got to get the run game going. You have to figure out something there. So, I think they will. I think that they will continue to progress. Like you said, you've got a couple weeks now that you should be rolling through some teams. I think the Maryland game will be an interesting one the week before Michigan on the road. I think that's a pretty good team. So, I think you're comfortable the next couple weeks, and then you'll have a little bit of a test, and then obviously the big test at the end of the year. So if I'm an Ohio State fan, I feel pretty good. But, as I've said 3 or 4 times now, the most important thing is you're 8-0. You just beat the number 13 team in the country in their house, and it was rocking. I promise you that. The press box, when they score, it's like at Wisconsin. It shakes. It's do that.
Well, great stuff, Patrick Murphy. Thank you very much for hopping on, sir. Go enjoy more ice cream. You work out. You're allowed to have as much ice cream as you want, so enjoy it. Thank you to Patrick Murphy for your insights live from Beaver Stadium. Get back to work and get back to eating more ice cream. Thank you, sir.
All right. Talk to you later, Dave.
All right. Take care. Patrick Murphy, thank you to his insights. Great hearing from Patrick and Steve live from Beaver Stadium. Great hearing from J-Book earlier in the show. So let's get to some final questions here. We've had a lot of questions about the Michigan game tonight. So Michigan State, what, 7:30 tonight? It's in Ann Arbor. Michigan's favored by like 23. So I mean, I think Michigan's going to win. But listen, I mean, Michigan State's beat them twice in a row. I think that might kind of hurt Michigan State tonight because Michigan's going to be ready for them. Michigan State's not good, as we all know. I mean, Michigan State was terrible 2 years ago and they beat them. Michigan was the better team last year and Michigan State beat them. So you never know. But I do not like Michigan State's chances tonight. I hope I'm wrong. You guys know who I'll be rooting for. Let's get to some. This is from Thomas on YouTube. Dave, what is your take on the O-line? Well, I mean, it's hot and cold, right? I mean, it's just, there's no other way to describe it right now. It's hot and cold. Sometimes I think that they're a fantastic O-line. Sometimes I'm just like, well, what are they doing? Sometimes you can say the other team's scheming them up and whatever. I mean, they've got to be more physical than this. They have to be. We've been saying they are. I know teams have been stacking the box the last couple of weeks, but Penn State wasn't stacking it as much as Iowa. You can't excuse it on that. So disappointed overall today. But then there was times that they gave, CJ a lot of time to throw, and they got the job done. I mean, it's hot and cold. There's no other way. But like this idea that they're like fantastic, I can't get there. But I still like the O-line. I don't want to sit here and like rip on them. Like I still like the O-line, but I mean, as Yakov is saying here right now on YouTube, the current O-line blocking is not enough against Michigan. That's exactly the point. Was it enough to survive even against a good Penn State team, even in one of the best environments in college football? Yes, it was enough to do that. Is it going to be enough to win the next 3 weeks? Yes. Hell yes. Is it going to be enough to beat Michigan? Is it going to be enough to, win the college football playoff semifinal? Is it going to be enough to win, the national championship? Those are the questions that we want to know. So, or the answers that we want to know. So, we'll find out. All right, Tyler on YouTube. What is my overall grade of this win? Man, based on everything and the way Penn State plays against Ohio State, I'll give it a B. I'll give it a B. I can't give it an A. I was tempted to say C because of so many things I was frustrated with as I went through my notes here. Like a lot of stuff I wasn't happy with. But bottom line is you beat Penn State by 13 in their house. You're favored by 15.5. It's a B. It's not an A. It's not a C. It's a B. I give them a B. It's a solid B. It's a good win. Not a great win. It's a good win. It wasn't a statement win like I was kind of hoping they'd send like a message like, oh, that's cool, Michigan, that you beat Penn State 41-17 in your house. Wait till what we show you we're going to do in their house. Early, it looked like that's what was going to happen. At least they won, though. They showed grit, and that is important. They showed grit for the second time this season. They were trailing in the second half. They were trailing in the third quarter against Notre Dame. In fact, trailing until like almost like the last play of the second to last play of the third quarter. They were trailing at home against Notre Dame. Pulled that game out 21-10, and then and it felt like they dominated the second half. And then today they're trailing in the fourth quarter and they win. So showing grit is important. We've touched on this a little bit. Andrew on Facebook, is the run game a concern? Should we now be worried? Paraphrasing his question, is the run game a concern? Should we now be worried? I'm concerned about it. I don't think like we can just now say it's like a terrible running game, but it's not like this, like, oh, they're supremely balanced. They can kill you with the pass or the run, and I've been guilty of saying that up until last week. And you're wondering, was last week an aberration? Iowa stacking the box, and not just stacking the box, like throwing 8 in the box sometimes, not just 7, sometimes 9 in the box. Yeah, it's a concern. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a concern. I still am bullish overall. They're going to get it figured out. But man, that's 2 weeks in a row. 2.2 yards per carry last week, and then 3.8 yards per carry to 3.6. Ohio State rushing, not good. Not good overall. 3.6 yards per carry? How are we not showing me that? 3.8 yards per carry. So 2.2 yards per carry last week, again, including sacks, 3.8 yards per carry today. Yeah, That's a concern for sure. Lucas on Facebook, can our defense stop a talented run team like that team up north? I think they can. I believe in this defense. I do. I love these D tackles, man. These top 4 D tackles with Michael Hall Jr. And Teron Vincent and Tyleek Williams and Jerron Cage. I mean, yeah. And the way JT Tuimoloau, they're big at defensive end. I mean, Ohio State's defensive ends are big. Zach Harrison, 6'6", 272. JT Tuimoloau, 6'4", 272. Yeah. Tommy needs to play, but Tommy has looked like a Buckeyes Award winner up until today. Tommy did not have his best game today, but I'm confident November 26th, Ohio State will be able to slow down Michigan's run. You're not going to stop their run. They've got a really good offensive line. Blake Corum's the real deal, and J.J. McCarthy's a threat to run, and they can dink and dunk you in the passing game, so that'll keep you honest as well. So you add it all up. But, yeah, I mean, can Ohio State stop? They can contain them. They're not going to stop them, to answer your question. No, I guess I should say no, they can't stop them. But I think Ohio State will contain Michigan's running game. I'm still confident in that game. I think it might be something similar to what we saw today, where there's nervous moments, even maybe late in the game, but Ohio State wins. I'm still very confident Ohio State's going to beat Michigan. But Michigan's better than what I thought they'd be. There's no getting around it. All right, let's get to some few more questions, and we'll get back to watching some college football and some post-game work done here. All right, Brad. Yeah, I know Matthew Jones had a bad game. We've had a lot of comments about Matt Jones. He had a bad game. Fifth-year senior Matt Jones at right guard had a bad game. He did. Brad wants to know, who's the first guy in for Matthew Jones? It would be Enoch Vamahi. We saw that against Notre Dame when Matt, his shoe like broke or something. I don't know what happened, like the sole of his shoe. I don't know what happened. It was something like, I guess he didn't have a backup pair of cleats. So we thought it was a foot injury. It was just his cleat. Something happened to his cleat, and then Enoch Vamahi went in there. If you remember, they did like a little power O to the left, a little pull, and Enoch Vamahi, didn't really pancake the guy because the guy kind of dove out of the way. Still should count as a pancake, but the Buckeyes get like a decently big running play, especially in the red zone. So Enoch Vamahi, a fourth-year junior out of Hawaii, former 4-star recruit, is the top backup guard. Matt Jones had a bad day. I don't think Enoch Vamahi is going to replace him, but Matt Jones needs to play better. Brad on YouTube, do they go with a 3-linebacker look against Michigan? I would have said no until last week. They showed a lot of that last week against Iowa. Knowles has kind of said like, "Oh, I believe in my safeties, are physical enough to get the job done," and they've proven that. But then they showed a lot of 3-backers, against Iowa. So I do think they're going to mix it in maybe more than I thought. I think they will mix that in more than I thought. But yeah, I mean, Cody Simon. It really depends on how well Cody Simon's playing, because they love Eichenberg at middle linebacker. For a while there, it was like, is it Steele or Cody? Steele is kind of like, emerged as the clear guy there at the will. And then now is, are they going to use more 3 linebackers with Cody Simon? It probably depends on how well Cody Simon's playing and how confident they are in their safeties in the run game. But Knowles is going to mix it up. We all know that. Gino on Facebook, ESPN just had a graphic predicting Ohio State will be number 6 in the college football playoffs first ranking. Thoughts? As I'm reading the question, I'm like, they're talking about like that's what they're predicting they're going to finish. Okay, so they're saying they're going to lose to Michigan. Like, no way they're going to be 6th in the first ranking. That's ridiculous. ESPN. No. So again, to repeat, ESPN just had a graphic up predicting Ohio State will be number 6 in the college football playoff first ranking, which comes out next week, comes out on Tuesday. Thoughts? BS, or Wednesday, whenever it comes out. Complete BS is my thoughts. There's no way that'll happen. They're not going to be 6th. All right. Rusty on YouTube. Any idea what the snap counts were for the corners today? Mostly it was Denzel Burke played a ton, and then J.K. Johnson played the second most, and then Jordan Hancock would have played the third most. I don't know the exact number. I just watched the game live and took notes. Copious notes, but I do not know the snap count yet. I do know my friend Dan Hope on 11 Warriors will have the snap counts. He does that piece every Monday, does a great job meticulous work. So my friend Dan Hope will have the specific snap counts. I do not have that for you right now. Ohio State does not release specific snap counts. So you have to rely on people like great journalists like my friend Dan Hope to give you that information. So we'll find that out. Oh, Lucas Chapman saying that was Desmond Howard's rankings, saying Ohio State would be 6. Probably. You're probably being tongue in cheek, but you're actually being serious. Yakov is saying, am I heading up to – I should head up. Not asking if I am. I should head up to Cleveland for the Monday Night Football game. Nah, I'm not going to. I'm gonna watch it from Man Cave Central. Man Cave Central, watch the Bengals Browns. It's going to be a good game. A little worried about that game. Both teams banged up, but still, Browns back against the wall at home. Home underdogs. Monday Night Football. Bengals don't have Jamar Chase, but the Browns don't have Denzel Ward and some others, good players, Wyatt Teller. The Bengals don't have DJ Reader and Josh Tupa. It's a mash unit out there, but Bengals have Joe Burrow, though. Maybe that's what I should focus on, Joe Burrow versus Jacoby Brissett. All right, let's get back on track here. Michael on YouTube. Northwestern, Indiana, and Maryland will get that running game going. I agree with that. That'll get them some momentum going into the Michigan game. That's the thing. We have to remember. I mean, we said it all offseason. Penn State was going to be a tough game, and then it is. We can't sit here and act like we're totally surprised. Yeah, I'm frustrated about some stuff. Yeah, you guys are frustrated about some stuff. J-Book was frustrated about some stuff. We're all frustrated about some stuff, but I do want to stress beating Penn State by 13 in their house, especially when you had to show some grit to do it, that's a good win right there. Again, I love the question asking what grade would I give it? I give it a B. I'm not going to give it an A, but I'm not going to give it a C and overreact, okay? It was a solid win. It was a B. If at home, I wouldn't give it a B, but even at noon, I mean, that was a great environment there. They get after it. And as soon as Ohio State gave away momentum to start the second, that was a huge, huge momentum shift. We went over that earlier, a huge momentum shift. Ohio State really had a chance to put their foot on their throat and never let up. It's 10-0 going into the second quarter. First play of the second quarter, it's 3rd and inches. Instead of doing a QB sneak, Ohio State hands the ball off to TreVeyon Henderson. Not only doesn't he get it, he gets knocked backwards for a loss. Then they punt, and then Penn State gets the long touchdown off the missed tackle, the combined missed tackle from J.K. Johnson and Tanner McAllister. And then it's game on. So I give Ohio State credit for showing some grit and winning a game against a good but not great Penn State team, but in one of the toughest environments in college football. And Penn State looks at Ohio State as their main rival. So, again, I'm comfortable giving that a B grade. Curious to hear what some of you guys think about that. What grade would you give it? You give it a B? Would you give it an A just because any win in Happy Valley is an A? I'm here for that argument. I don't want to hear C because I thought about that, but I can't go there because I think you got to give Penn State some credit. You got to give the environment credit. You got to give the way they look at Ohio State as their main rival credit. And Ohio State still won this game by 13 points. So I don't want to hear C. I could probably, if you want to tell me A-, I could probably get down with that. I could probably hear that argument. At least I want to hear why you'd give it an A. I want to hear why you'd give it an A. Connie says B. Bilal says an A. I want to hear why it's an A, though. I want to hear why. Why do you think it's an A? Just because any win in Happy Valley is an A? That's fair. Brad saying B-. A win's a win. I almost said you said B- and then an A. I got you. B-, period. A win's a win, but left with more questions than answers. That's kind of what I said earlier. I have more questions about this team entering the game than I thought I would, okay? But it's not crazy. So I give it a B. B-. You might be more on point with a B-. JT should be talked about. Oh, we've talked. I led the show with him. This was his game. This was the JT Tuimoloau show. Vonnie on Facebook saying I would give Ryan Day's play calling a C. That might be being generous. Just the overall. Thanasi on YouTube B+ all day. I'm liking all these comments. JT gets an A+++++. Yeah, that's true. Joey on Facebook, B+ for fighting back and the defense. Urban Legend 187 on YouTube is flipping it a little bit. Defense A- for the defense, C+ for the offense. Yeah, so B overall. We are congruent. Sean, defense B+ with the turnovers, offense B-. All right, I think we're all like, yeah, we're basically all in agreement here. Roughly, right? We'll take it. Brad, the Ohio State game is always Penn State Super Bowl. It is. They look at Ohio State as their main rival. We've talked about it all week. We've talked about it all the time. Every year they play, we talk about it. It was the only Big Ten team for years that they shared a state border with. The crossover games when they were doing like the protected rivalries or whatever, it was always, Ohio State would always play, Michigan, obviously, and Penn State. Those are the two teams they would always play. So Penn State was always playing Ohio State, and they would look at Ohio State as their main rival. They still do. And Ohio State being the big dog in the conference adds to that. You add it all up. I mean, Penn State gets up for Ohio State. Ohio State's now won 6 straight against Penn State. The average margin of victory coming in was 7. So what's that go up to? Like 8 now? It went by this one by 13. So now like the average margin of victory is like 8.2 or something like that. I'm trying to do the math in my head. So you win 6 straight, but it's like by an average of 8 points basically. I mean, give Penn State credit. And give Ohio State credit, survive in advance. I mean, there was a time there in the fourth quarter where we're like sitting there like, are they even going to win this game? So, I mean, they're trailing 21-16, and then they go on a run there, 4 touchdowns in 6 minutes and just completely take control of the game. So that was fun. I'm looking forward to rewatching the game. Looking forward to watching some other college football and getting some work done for the site. Love this podcast. Appreciate you guys joining me. Really, really appreciate you guys joining me. I know you probably maybe you have me on the background and you have college football on. I don't know. I don't blame you for that, but appreciate all you guys tuning in. We've had a very big audience here, and thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you to Jonah Booker for dropping in. Great hearing from J-Book. He always comes strong. Always my guest on the Friday Bucknuts Morning 5, and great that Jonah was willing to hop in here and share his insights after the game. Also, thank you to Patrick Murphy and Steve Helwagen. Great hearing from them live from Beaver Stadium. So, Buckeyes, there we go, 8-0. They beat Penn State 44-31 despite trailing in the fourth quarter. Second time this year, the Buckeyes trailing in the second half and win a game. Notre Dame and now Penn State showing some grit. I would prefer if every game was like a blowout, right? But I think this might come back to pay dividends. We'll see. Maybe that's spin doctoring. Again, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm frustrated about, but bottom line, I give this win a B, like I said, and that's the biggest thing. You have to. There's going to be. We just have to look at the 2002 team to know this, or the 2014. I mean, the 2014 team lost to Virginia Tech. The 2002 team, I mean, every game was close. I mean, there's going to be tough games, and bottom line is they won at Penn State. So I'll take it and then some. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning into the show. Thank you to J-Book. Thank you to Patrick Murphy. Thank you to Steve Helwagen. And again, thank you to all of you. I am Dave Biddle. Thanks for joining me for What We Learned Live. I will do a written version of What We Learned for bucknuts.com on Monday. Again, thanks to all of our guests, and thank you to all of our listeners and viewers. I appreciate it very much. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their evening. Thanks again.